So this angular axis is very important for developing and understanding the person's position in life, what they're seeking to achieve, and where they're coming from. And then you look at angles of planets on the angles, how they're aspected as well, and all that adds to the picture. So, for example, Steph, you've got it's quite a wide, well, you've got actually quite a very interesting angle here. You've got Venus trine the moon, and that's actually a very, very pleasing aspect to have in life. It's quite a nice one. It's quite a gift to have that, in fire signs. It shows creativity for sure. And it's with the midheaven. The midheaven's at 0 Leo and Venus at 9. There's, that's enough to consider it to be angular. It's not a tight angle. And by the way, when you get angles that are very tight, then it's really tough. In fact, I feel like I want to show you a couple of angular charts. What I've actually got tonight is I've got 2 charts of the UK. I've got the charts of this country, because I thought they might be quite interesting to look at, actually, with respect to understanding MC and IC a little bit, and the 4 angles. Okay, so here's,
because I obviously don't know as much as Steph. When you say square and trine,
yes,
what does that mean?
We're getting onto our aspects is this term. Okay, so between now and December, you're going to learn all about aspects. All right, and that is the word square and trine and opposition and conjunction. Okay, so we're going to be going into those, and there'll be handouts for each lesson, and I'll be getting really into those in a big way with you, because they are, they are the key dynamics to understanding people, how charts are. All right, so is that okay? All right, is that as I explained myself there, Sonia? Yeah. Good. Okay, so that we'll be starting that in 2 weeks' time. All right, not next week, because we'll do quadrants and hemispheres, but the week afterwards. All right, so can you see a chart? Has a chart appeared on the screen that is dated 25th of December 1066?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes a chart is set into the collective consciousness, right? That is to say, people just know it, and when we were all at school, and this has been the case for more than a century, hasn't it? We were all taught that William the Conqueror was crowned in Westminster Abbey on December the 25th, 1066. Okay, and that is one of the things you remember from school days. So deep in the collective consciousness is this idea of the king on Christmas Day, right? And so this is the chart for that moment, all right? And you have to bear in mind that back in 1066, there'd just been the Norman conquest. They'd come over from France, and they'd taken over, and it took about 3 or 4 months after the Battle of Hastings, or a couple of months, to get up to London, to set themselves in their place. He then built the Tower of London, etc., 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 and he then crowned himself and said, "I'm the king of these islands." So let's have a look at this chart, because this is actually the monarchy chart for the UK. All right, so it holds a lot of very, very interesting insights, okay, in terms of how the succession of the monarchs go, and just generally for the state of the nation with respect to how we are subjects of a monarchy, which is really kind of a different, but it's something of a collective consciousness nature. So, okay, so basically, we have the Aries ascendant, okay, we have the Libra descendant. So Aries is like the conqueror, right? The warlike conqueror, as a first house. It was a battle, right, that put him in the place, right? So everyone identified with the king in Westminster, then this whole process, And so you're getting a history lesson here in a way, but you're getting it with astrology, right? To help you understand what I'm, but Aries ascendant would be, okay, let's do it our way. Let's do it my way. Maybe William the Conqueror might have said, we're going to do it my way, right? That's what's going to win, right? And Aries love to win, right? So, but this is also, if you think about this, this is also Brexit, right? And there's more about that later, right? Because I'm also going to show you the other English chart in a minute. But this is so you start to understand it's not just people we can do. We can also do what's called mundane astrology, which is countries and world events and the news and all that sort of stuff. So I'm really widening your field of understanding today, right? To include things like events, right, and history, right? So it starts to give you more of an understanding of things. So the conqueror is Aries, right? So he called himself William the Conqueror, therefore first house Aries. Just so happened at 12 noon on that 25th of December, and this probably is the accurate chart, because the 1,000 years ago they would have done it when the sun was at the highest point in the sky. They would have had the coronation then, because the king rules the sun, or the sun rules the king. Anyways, so the base of the chart is, and then the Libra, of course, is everyone else, is having to relate to, so everyone's got to keep the peace now, right? Because the conqueror's taken over, right? Aries, first house. Everyone's got to keep the peace, descendant Libra, okay? So you've got to harmonize with this new conqueror, okay? So there's that axis there. But then this I find particularly really kind of interesting, because the IC of the chart is in the crab, and we live on islands surrounded by the sea. And so it is a water sign. So the deepest emotional roots, if you like, the foundation is the islands. Yeah, the king is taking over, or the king is inhabiting quite forcefully. It was a forceful action. But the IC there is in the crab. And in order to then take the position that they needed to take, the MC's naturally going to fall in Capricorn, which is about rules and regulations. Okay, so the new order of the day is this, everyone's going to do this, everyone's going to do that. We're going to take control, right? So MC and Capricorn. So these islands have lots of islands, lots of different warring tribes. We're going to take over. We'll do this. We'll be the conquerors. Listen to us. Harmonize with us, and we'll be the bosses, right? And that's literally this chart, right? And it's cardinal angles: ascendant Aries, descendant Libra, IC in the crab, and the MC up in Capricorn. And what did he do? He set up a thing called the Doomsday Book, which was the measurement of everything. So he measured the land and he measured everything, and there was a massive task. That was one of the big things that he did quite quickly on. That's a kind of MC and Capricorn thing. So what's the order of the land? How are we going to structure it, order it, push it around, shape it, make it, stuff like that. So there's an idea of some angular, a chart of how powerful the angles can be when you look at, say, an event. Okay, and just for the record, Pluto is coming up to Venus, by the way, by transit. So in the monarchy chart now, which applies to a certain extent to what's happening with the present day monarchy, Pluto is getting close to that Venus. Yeah, and the Venus is the descendant, rules the descendant, and rules the second house, all right, of money, right? And this is why my prediction is, and you heard it here first, is that we will rejoin the EU, but the rules to doing that will be that we take on the euro. And so the pound,
I do hope not, Julian. I really do hope not.
You hope not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Europe is an absolutely, tell you what, it is just it's Nazism by diplomacy. And if we ever fall under that regime again, we are doomed. And I do hope.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. And I didn't mean to get political, by the way. Sorry, I didn't. But what I will say is Pluto is coming up to the Venus. Okay, by transit, Pluto's going to contact the Venus soon, and that will be a massive change in values and worth and self-esteem. Now, Pluto will destroy something in order to regenerate it and rebirth it and recreate it. And because Venus rules the second house, I think that the Queen's head's going to come off the money. That's what I think. So I don't know what they're planning, or if there is any plan, because I don't think there is any plan. There isn't really a plan. We live in chaos, right? That's the deal. There is no conspiracy theories or nothing. It's just chaos. But that's not meant to be. I'm not trying to put a spanner in anyone's works there either, you know. But I don't believe in conspiracy theories. But I also see, if I look at this chart and I think about it, you know, it's the you know, this is about you know, what's going to happen to Elizabeth II. She's, you know, getting older, very old, in fact. And the Venus rules the, you know, it's the Venus in the 10th house. So it's like the female Venus, the female figurehead, is going to have a Pluto transit. It rules the descendant, which is relationships. So how the country relates to the monarch after this point. And it rules the second house of Taurus, which is resources and money. So as I said, think, and I don't think Charles is going to have his face on the money. Something really, something's changing and something's going to happen that's really quite interesting. And I'm not quite sure what it will be, but something is coming that's big and quite plutonic. So we shall see, you know. But interesting to see as well that the British people, or the islands as a whole, has the moon in the monarchy chart, has the moon in Pisces, which again is about sort of lack of boundaries to a certain extent. And so there we go. Right, so that's very key, and I'll show you that chart later on as we do more talking, and further down the line we could follow this chart. But take note of that Venus at 29 Capricorn. Okay, and now I'm going to show you the 1801 chart, which is the political chart. So I showed you the monarchy chart. Now this is the moment that Great Britain, so Wales, England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland became the United Kingdom. So this is called the Union Chart, or the UK Union Chart. And you want to write this down, because this is you know, you got so I've given you the 25th of December 1066 is the monarchy chart, and this is the political chart, which is literally the UK United Kingdom chart. And that was set on the 1st of January 1801 at midnight. It started on the 1st of January 1801 at midnight. And interestingly enough, the angles are reversed. So now we have the Libra ascendant with the Aries descendant, and then the Cancerian midheaven and the Capricorn as the base of the chart. It's a big shift, right? But it swaps it around, and what it does, of course, is it's just fascinating, right? Because, you know, there's the monarchy does the state opening of Parliament, but Parliament kind of runs its own show, and there's literally kind of like a flip of angles if you think about it, right? So in order to be the greatest democracy in the world, apparently, the UK is apparently the greatest democracy in the world, and so they had to have a diplomacy ascendant, Libra, and the amount of prime ministers that have very strong Libra is phenomenal. Okay, so Boris Johnson has a Libra ascendant. In fact, his Libra ascendant is very close to 7 degrees, right? Theresa May had planets in Libra. Margaret Thatcher was a Libra sun sign. A lot of them have very strong Libra. Libras are great for politicians, to be honest, and it works very well for them. Planets in Libra really sets them up in a good way, because it is all about diplomacy at the end of the day as well. So and then the descendants in Aries, you know, people can get very frustrated at politics, right? And a little bit sort of competitive, you know, the Scots and the Northern Irish going, hey, England, woo, you know, occasionally. Even the Welsh may have a go sometimes, you know, a little bit of a, you know, that's that kind of descendant in Aries, yeah. And then you have the IC in Capricorn, which is like, we're bringing all this together because it's controlling and it's orderly and it's structured and it's boundaries, which is all very Saturnian and very Capricorn, because Saturn rules Capricorn. So, and there's the Sun, right? Because what it is we're bringing it all together. We're making one country out of 4. So we've got actually 4 different nations. They're unified by their groupings of islands. And you know what? We're gonna put it all into one place and give it some structure. So the Sun is in Capricorn at the very base of the chart, and that's how we'll grow. We'll start with this idea that we'll put it all together. We'll call ourselves United Kingdom, and we're going to put it all together, and that's how we'll move forwards. And then if you see there that the midheaven is in the sign of the crab, and with the moon there, and it's all about the people, you know, because we're gonna get everyone emotionally, you know, people will get a good feeling, a nice homeland, a nice sense of, you know, security, which Cancerians love. You know, Cancer the crab loves its security. Must have a nest, you know, nice castle walls. These are all good things, you know, a city wall and things like that. It all makes sense to them. Maybe just a neat garden fence, you know, a bit of lawn in front. There's always a sense of getting some space and security around things, if you like, you know, so finding space to then say that's a defined thing. So in a way, so the midheaven is in Cancer, right? But what you've got there is this flipping of the angles that I think is really interesting, because the monarchy is not the parliament and the parliament is not the monarchy, but they share the same kind of thing, you know, the same kind. There's a correlation there. There's a similarity, and it shows in these angles because they are quite close. They're quite grouped quite well, you know. The monarchy chart has the ascendant at 22 Aries and therefore the descendant 20. So this is this band, you know, between 7 and 22 that they share, you know. And the same with this one. This one's bang on, right? I mean, it was 9 degrees. It was literally, yes, it's pretty much bang on it, you know. So that MCIC axis is really, really close to the same 2 charts. And I find that really fascinating, that the 2 major charts of England, or as we stand today, you know, the Union chart and stuff, is so similar, you know. So there we go. So I think that hopefully puts that into gives you an interesting chart to look at anyway, with respect to what's going on, you know. I might be able to show you a couple of other charts. I think that's probably quite good, a good example though. Does that make sense to both of you? Do you see what I've been trying to get at there? Is that, in terms of like our nation, we've got 2 very distinct events that are 800 years apart, but they kind of have a sort of interesting kind of link to them, you know, that can be seen in the way we are, you know. Yeah, so the you know, England's very Aries ascendant, you know, it really is, right? And also the Aries descendant on the Union chart, because of that sort of slightly warlike, you know, slightly kind of come on then, give it some, and all that kind of, you know. I can think of British metaphors of football fans. I'm seeing kind of, whenever I see that Aries ascendant, I think of the mass movements of Mars, which is football, right? That's how they controlled Mars in this country. They gave everybody football, and that was how to take the fiery planet Mars and contain it in quite a clever way, by putting people into a ground and having them all cheer and shout and fight each other afterwards with lots of beer. But the idea of like hero worship, team play, the sport, the whole thing. Everyone has a football team. Everyone has a team. That's their competition. It's the conquering nature, and that tied in with the sun as being the hero, you know, of the match, if you like, of the players. So it's two fire planets that quite nicely controlled by the game, football, you know, putting them all inside a stadium. It developed naturally, but football matches before, say, 1870, something like that, you know, that's when I think when the Football Association was formed. But before then, it used to be quite riotous affairs, you know, village versus village, town versus town, you know, market days and festival days, they'd have this football match where they kick around a sort of some sort of leather ball thing, but they'd have massive fights that would go with it. It's very Aries ascendant. It goes kind of tribal, and now these days it's like this fully contained thing as football teams, which is the tribes. And so I'm trying to show you there the idea of the Aries ascendant, and of how that is in the UK with respect to the ancient chart, the monarchy chart, and then the 1801 chart is like, well, everyone goes, oh, no one likes our football fans. No one likes our football fans, do they? Oh no, we'll put out the Libra ascendant. We'll say, peace. We're a lovely nation, very, very charming here. We all drink tea at 4 o'clock, and you know, as a British kind of thing. But then there's the thugs, the terrible thugs who descend on the football matches and make a horrible mess. You know, is a little bit of that kind of the descendant in Aries, you know, in terms of the United Kingdom, or the grouping of these islands together. So in a way, I'm also explaining this idea of Libra Aries, you know, and as a quick reflection there, if we were to look at some of the other axes there, then wherever that ascendant descendant falls in any chart, you know, you've got an axis here. It's a mirroring across. Yeah. So with the ascendant, it's the sense of putting something out to people, you know, being someone, saying, here's what I look like, you know, this is my my approach to my surroundings, this is my self-projection and my self-image. And then the opposite to that is what's required by descendant, being the but now I contact other people in this way, or I you know, I relate to people, you know, in this way, and so you look at that axis, and same with the MCIC axis, you know, so you look for the roots and then move up to the canopy, and that, I think, gives you a fairly good understanding of how to understand the angles. Do we have any questions at this point, please? Have I given you plenty of good material there to think about stuff? Is that you know, do you want me to keep going about the angles, or you know, have I given you enough to contemplate, ready to say do some charts? You know, would you understand now that if you were looking at a chart, okay, say you've got your first client coming up, you're ready to do a chart, what are you going to do first? What's the way in? The way in is to look at those 4 angles.
I was going to ask, I've got my son's chart, he's only 2 in front of me, but it's not in the equal parts, or is that, I don't know, what do we look at? Equal
Houses. Equal
houses. So it's not so clear to me looking at it. I'm not sure what it's in, but if I got it printed up in the one that I can look at properly, would I look at, if I wanted to see how I'm doing as a mother for him, would I look at his MC?
Yes.
You know, I'd see kind of.
Do you want to show you? Should we do it now?
Yeah.
You want to look at that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your son's name?
Okay, so Jesse Newick.
Justin.
Jesse, Jesse.
Right.
Newark.
Newark.
Yeah.
And the date, please, Steph.
The 5th of July.
Yep.
19.
And the time of day, please. Time of
Yeah.
day.
4:28 a.m.
And the place of birth, please.
Pembury, UK.
Pembury. Pembury.
Yeah, Pembury, yeah.
In Kent.
In Kent, yeah.
So I'll do this as an equal house chart. So there's Jess's chart. Okay, so it's got the Cancerian ascendant. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. So his midheaven is at 3 degrees of Pisces, and his IC is at 3 degrees of Virgo. Okay. So
yeah.
Let's have a look on your chart, and maybe, and also you've probably got your husband's chart, so but look to things that might be connected to the MCIC axis. All right. And so in your chart you have well, you've got a lot of planets in Virgo, yeah, here,
yeah,
right? So his MC is in your 5th house of children, the 5th house of children. So his midheaven falls into your 5th house, and his IC goes into your 11th house. But further into the sign, there are 3 major planets here. So there's a link. There is a link, because it's your sun sign, right? Is in one of the signs of his angles. Okay. But you can also look at this. So you've got your ascendant at 23 and of Libra and Aries,
mm-hmm.
and Jesse would have his Libra Aries. So you've got, like, he's got well, just Chiron there, but it's still interesting that his 4th and 10th, yeah. And these are also connected to the parents, because the 4th house cusp and the 10th house cusp are also parental houses, which I'll talk about later on. We'll be talking about that maybe next week with quadrants and hemispheres and things. But this is the parental axis, the angles, the 4 angles, which are very precise degree points. And then you get houses that are also connected to family and parents. So the 4th and the 10th. Okay. And he's got his so the Aries is connected to you and Libra as well, that 4th,
mm-hmm.
10th axis. So there's it's quite I would actually probably say that he will be very much his own person, and maybe not so his relationship with you, he might find you a particularly easy parental relationship, because there's no real tight angles between you and him. There's no really tight angles there, which would make for intensity, or ramp up the energies, because an angle with a planet can really ramp things up and make them extremely effective or strong or influential. And so the fact that he doesn't have anything in Aries, and apart from Chiron, which would be its own package of interesting things, which we but the MCIC axis here is reasonably clear. His Neptune is opposing your sun sign, or, well, again, it's very wide, so yeah, I would say that the relationship, you'll probably have a very good relationship with them, that it's not going to be loaded with tension, probably. And then, but there may be other things to look at though here, I mean, his Mars at 2, his Mercury at 4, his Moon at 14 Leo, and so his Moon is on your Venus, and his Mars and his Mercury are on your midheaven. So that could be quite interesting. Maybe you can teach him some interesting things. And in the future. And you know, but that's, you know, so that's, remember last week you said that you had a thing where he, of course all by mistake, but you said that
yeah, knocked my tooth out.
he kicked your teeth by mistake. Well, Mars, of course, is the planet of you know, strong direct energy. It's a very physical planet. It would be the equivalent of a kick, you know. It's a very Marsy type thing, and it's on an angle of your chart. Yeah, so his Mars and Mercury, you know. So I'd pay attention to flailing arms and legs as a thing, you know, because he's got that Mars on an angle, you know, of your chart. It recalls, I have to recall again my relationship with my dad. My father had Mars in Leo, and it was very close to my ascendant, and he wouldn't let me do anything, you know. He used to race old cars, but he wouldn't let me near them. He never did. He just wouldn't, right from the word go. And it really blows my mind when I think about it, because there's one thing I wanted to do was to see what my dad was doing, you know. So he'd restore these old vintage cars, and then he'd go off racing them. Oh, you don't want to come with me. He's right from a very early age. He'd say stuff like that. I'd be like, but actually, but I kind of do. And he'd be like, no, you don't want that. So you know, that Mars was his way of, Mars to my ascendant kind of held me back from wanting to do Mars things, you know, like it's a complicated thing. But what I'm trying to say there, when it comes to doing synastry, which is one of the things that astrology does later on, you know, once you've learned a single chart, you can start comparing charts. That's a whole branch of astrology in itself, you know, and that's the astrology of relationships. And once you get into that, then, you know, there's a whole other things to learn there, you know, and it's how angles work between people, you know. You know, thank you, Steph, for choosing me as your astrology teacher. I'm teaching you something that you could turn into a profession, and you have the midheaven in Leo with your north node and Venus in Leo, and I've got my ascendant in Leo and several planets in Leo. Yeah, so it's interesting that your 10th house of potential career, you know, is kind of, I have several planets in that part of your chart, and therefore I've ended up being so, and you could turn astrology as a profession, you know. You really could, you know. And because I'm sure Robin, you see, will help you, won't she? You know, I mean, once you get to a certain level and you're talking it, you know, then of course, you know, that sort of thing can be really good. You know, you could really start to get very, very fluent. And Sonia, you know, again, thank you for choosing me as an astrologer, as a friend of a friend, you know. Andrew Austin suggested it, you know, and I've got all these Leo stuff here. We actually share a very similar, our birthdays are very close together, you know, but you know, I've got planets in Leo on your moon and sun and Venus, you know, and my ascendant as well. And in a way, there's something about what we can do in the future is a lot of group work, which is 11th house, you know, potentially, you know, we could be doing big with Andrew, you know, however you want to do it, you know. You might want to do your own thing, but there's a great potential there to do 11th house, which is groups. Yes, the house of groups or friends or associates or, you know, a larger network. So there's things to think about like that, you see. So that's interesting. How I'm just showing you to give you some ideas there about how you know, how it is. It's the link that we have there, you know, in how it kind of works. So so there, right. So that's good. Are you happy with tonight's lesson? Do you both feel like you've learned substantial amounts of useful astrology to keep you going for a week?
Yes, thank you.
Good. Well, it's always a pleasure to teach you. Thank you very much indeed for choosing me as your astrologer. I really enjoy teaching both of you. I think we're doing really well. You know, you stuck the course. You're doing so well. And are you enjoying it? Are you finding it Is it, do you think a weekly lesson is going to help, you know, by progressing like this? We move
Yeah,
forward?
definitely.
Yeah, good. Sonia, the same?
Yeah, for me, because it's this aspect of it is all very new. So I suppose it's a bit more difficult for me to grasp some of it because some of it's out of context. But I'm guessing it'll build.
It will. It will. And because I'm actually going to be asking you soon to start looking at creating your own planetary keyword sentences. That is where you'll suddenly get it. You know, you'll suddenly start to see it. You know, and it'll all kind of, you know, start to formulate together. All right. So you know, that's what we're going to be doing reasonably soon. All right. But aspects first. All right. And so aspects of all those colored lines in the middle of each chart, we're going to be doing those this term. All right. And then you know, right now we're doing houses, and today you've really, I think, made a big step forward understanding the 4 angles. That's the way in. You know, that's how you could start talking to people. And you can also, you know, as we'll talk about this, you can do the lights, the sun and the moon, and then the ascendant, and the other 3, you know. So sun, moon, and 4 angles, and you're really getting right into the heart of the chart. Okay, which is good, right? Because, you know, and with your knowledge of metaphor, it's getting really interesting. It's going to be really interesting. This book is amazing. You know, I mean, it was amazing to read that. It suddenly, like, I just kept on getting lots of wow, you know. I was like,
did you know my book out, Julian?
So, have you got a book?
I haven't.
I did see your book on Facebook. You've done a book on IEMT, haven't you? Yes, yes. Maybe you know, yeah. Maybe I would like a copy of that, actually. Yes, please. Yes. Yes. All right. I'll let you know. I will. Actually, are you posting them to people?
I am. So if anyone, you know, wants one personally sent, then I'm doing it that.
Okay.
It's about 150 odd out thus far.
All right.
And I've now put it on Amazon as well.
Good. Can I send you an email then?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and we'll sort that out. Okay. So I'll write to you within the next couple of days.
Yeah, no problem.
All righty. Fantastic. So so thank you, everybody. And I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I think 90 minutes is all right as well, because it's slightly more condensed.
Yeah.
Keeps it fairly well contained. And you know, I'm pushed to give you lots of really nice info in that time, you know. All right. So so thank you, and speak to you all soon. Okay.
Bye.
See you next week.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Cheerio. Bye.